Hello everyone, happy Friday. Here's what's coming up on News Center Now.
Extremely confident, extremely well-rounded and worldly.
Mainers remember Emmy-winning TV host Anthony Bourdain, who took his own life, and we look at the alarming rise of suicides.
Because that's what you do for community, and you show up.
As more construction pops up along the Maine coast, a group is rallying people to support the working wharves, and it's not just fishermen.
Plus, meet a man spending his final day at school in the same room he sat in 61 years ago.
Such a great story. This is News Center Now.
News on this Friday. An Emmy-winning TV host with plenty of ties to Maine has taken his own life. Anthony Bourdain's death is another reminder of an alarming rise in suicides. Bourdain was in France working on an upcoming episode of his feature show Parts Unknown, which aired on CNN. Anthony Bourdain was 61 years old. Earlier this week, fashion designer and businesswoman Kate Spade took her life. To put this in perspective, the CDC says more Americans die from suicide than car crashes or opioids. Good evening, I'm Lindsay Mills.
And I'm Lee Goldberg. Anthony Bourdain's personal photographer grew up in the Piscataquis County town of Milo, and Bourdain himself made plenty of visits to our state.
In just a few minutes, Christine Linehan, a licensed professional counselor, will join us live to answer your questions. So go to our Facebook live stream right now and leave your questions in the comments section.
But first, Christina Rex stopped by one of Bourdain's favorite spots in Portland.
Where are we? What is this town?
Portland, Maine.
It's really sad because if you talked to him and you met him, you wouldn't have ever thought
Oh, well, this is where we're going, right?
Yeah.
Jay's Oyster.
anything were ever an issue,
Yeah.
or that he suffered from any mental illness.
This is your joint?
Anthony Bourdain was no stranger to Maine. From traditional bean suppers in Milo to a visit to Primo in Rockland, to Street and Company in Portland, to special memories made at one of his favorite spots, Jay's Oyster.
I was devastated.
Hannah Maltby remembers the first time Bourdain came to her family's restaurant.
I've been a fan of his since his first show. I've read his books long before he ever came here. The first time he came here, it was hilarious because I got wind of it through my mother-in-law, and I was like, wait, who? I'll be right down.
She remembers catering his VIP event and an intimate dinner at the family restaurant. She saved this picture of her son Valentino with Bourdain, not realizing how much that picture would mean to her just 2 years later.
I mean, he just adored him. And that, to me, was so endearing because he just really connected.
How do you say cheers in Maine?
She says the superstar's death is a harsh reminder that it doesn't matter how much money you have. Mental illness does not discriminate.
Again, that's not the case, that mental illness is with everybody, and it's something that we as a country struggle with every day.
In Portland, Christina Rex, News Center, Maine.
Now, we've gotten a lot of comments about Anthony Bourdain on our Facebook page.
Betsy Haskell says, the ultimate storyteller, the world has become much more bland in your absence. Rest in peace, and may you find the ultimate cuisines in abundance in your next journey. Deborah Henderson says, so sad. I loved his show. He was a great storyteller. You will be sadly missed. Rest in peace. Condolences to his family for their loss. And Dina Crowell says, this is so sad. Kate Spade and now him and so many before them. People must be kinder and stop talking mean about others. Now, the news of Anthony Bourdain's death comes just hours after a new report released by the CDC shows suicide in the U.S. has increased nearly 30% since 1999.
That report shows that in our state, suicides have increased by more than 27% over that same period. A video on the CDC's website explains the study. More than half of the people who died by suicide did not have a known mental health condition like depression, anxiety, or personality disorder. Nearly 45,000 people died by suicide in 2016 alone.
Chris Costa joins us now. Chris, obviously these recent deaths like Anthony Bourdain's and Kate Spade's are very sad, and they impact people all over the country.
Yeah, Lee and Lindsay, we wanted to try to understand more about the impact these high-profile suicides have on all of us who are not celebrities. We brought a few questions to Maine's National Alliance on Mental Illness.
it often kind of makes people see that as more of an option, when in fact what we want is people to have conversations, to be able to figure out a way to work through struggles. But life can be hard. Losing a job, spouse, getting divorced, losing a spouse, those are all things that is very normal to struggle with. But if you're struggling in silence, the messages that you're telling yourselves, like this can never get any better, can get pretty overwhelming for any person. We want to find a way for people to be able to connect, to figure out a path for which they can see themselves through whatever period of darkness they're experiencing in their life, whether they have a diagnosis or they've just had a whole lot of challenges. Really, the best support is going to come from people you have a relationship with. It's part of the overall message around suicide prevention is actually every one of our jobs to do, right? Reaching out and kind of connecting, offering to go to coffee with them, because there's asking someone who's in an isolated place that's really struggling with any lack of sort of hope for the future to reach out for help is a big ask. That kind of social connection, that kind of sense that people matter to each other, that ability to connect can, if someone does need more formal help, can serve as the bridge, but it also can make someone feel like, somebody does care, I am important.
Joining us now is Christine Linehan. She's a licensed clinical professional counselor who specializes in helping people with grief and loss. Christine, one of the reactions we hear a lot when something like this happens is that there's a lot of stigma around asking for help or asking if somebody else needs help concerning their mental health. How can we as a society reduce that stigma?
Well, it sounds simple, Chris, but talking about suicide is a great way to reduce the stigma. And there are lots of places that we can go to educate ourselves. Here in Maine, we have NAMI. You heard from Jenna some of the things she was saying. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention has a Maine chapter where you can find out on their Facebook page about suicide, the risk factors. Also, a great organization in Maine is the Yellow Tulip Project, and their motto is smash the stigma. So really educating yourself, raising awareness, being able to talk to someone, if you hear them having some of the struggles that Jenna mentioned about relationship difficulties, substance abuse problems, asking them, how are you doing? How are you really doing? Do you have thoughts of dying by suicide? Have you ever thought about suicide? Oftentimes we're afraid to do that. Some people think if you raise the issue, it will create a crisis, but the research has found that's not true at all. Mm-hmm. That really addressing that with people is very important.
Mm-hmm. Now we know some of those warning signs, somebody feeling like they're a burden, either isolating oneself or maybe seeing an increased anxiety, anger, rage, maybe they're expressing hopelessness. When you see these signs in a loved one, what should you do?
As I was saying, really talk about it with them. There was a wonderful article in the New York Times last week about, the headline was like, show up. Be with them, sit with them. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. Find out how they're doing. And really, I think a big word that I love is concern. Tell them, I'm concerned about you. I'm noticing this. I'm noticing that you're doing such and such, or you're isolating, or you haven't been yourself lately. If you notice a change in behavior, that's a key risk factor.
Mm-hmm. We're going to keep the conversation going on our Facebook live stream during our commercial breaks, as well as talk about how people can deal with the loss of a loved one by suicide. So make sure you leave your comments in our live stream. And Christine, thanks so much for being here. Lee and Lindsay.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. If you or somebody that you know needs help, here are the numbers, or here's the number for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. It's 1-800-273-8255. This does not close, guys. You can call anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The Lifeline provides free and confidential support for people in distress, prevention, and crisis resources. Again, the number for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-8255. Artists are teaming up with Maine fishermen to voice their concerns surrounding the development of our waterfront communities.
Fishermen depend on the piers and docks to do their jobs, and some photographers say they can't imagine a waterfront like Portland's without those working wharves. Joanne Arnold starts her day the same way every day.
20 below, 95 degrees.
No matter the weather, she photographs Portland's waterfront and has been doing so every morning for the last 10 years.
I have not missed a morning on the waterfront. So at first light, before sunrise, I'm wandering these wharves.
Unlike many in Maine, Arnold has no relation to anyone in the fishing community. But over the last decade, she's gotten to know the fishermen who use this port.
If we, in essence, lose this community, Portland will be forever changed.
Arnold says she's concerned about the development of the waterfront. Although her work doesn't depend on this space, she understands how important it is to those who do.
If I were to send a postcard to my friends from Portland, Maine, I'm not going to send an image of a hotel.
She's part of a self-proclaimed grassroots effort by a combination of people from Maine's fishing and art communities. On Saturday from 2:30 to 4 p.m., they're asking people to show up at Merrill's Wharf for a creative show of gratitude.
Two groups that could easily keep separate from one another, and it would be easy to dismiss one another.
And Arnold's hope is to start a conversation.
I'm not a fisherman. I have no connection with the fishing industry. I don't make any money down here. But let's hear from the people who do, who have long 3, 4, or 5 generations of fishermen in their family.
Now, some developers believe there can be a healthy mix between new construction and the working wharves.
And for that and more about this story, just visit the Now section of our website or our mobile app.
Okay, turning to the weather now. We are in for a nice weekend ahead.
Well, Keith's been promising it for a while, and it looks like it's finally here, sir. We will give you the credit where it's due.
Coming through slowly, right? Even this morning, we had some clouds. We burnt them off by late morning. After that, most of the day was fantastic. High temperatures officially 78 in Portland, 80 in Portsmouth, 77 in Wiscasset, 74 in Augusta. These are about 5 to 7 degrees above average, strict average for this time of the year. But obviously, we've been super cool lately, so this feels like a huge departure compared to where we've been recently. We were pretty clear as far as cloud cover goes, but we did end up with a few clouds moving in over southern Maine and even an isolated shower. Where the shower ended up is somewhat hilarious in that it ended up across the beaches in York and Cumberland County, where there's probably per capita the most people in the state. There's the cloud cover, nothing left of it, but watch this radar loop for the 6 hours prior and you'll see this little shower just streak across parts of York and Cumberland County and again hit the beaches with some rain. That was it though, and that will be it through the rest of tonight. We look partly cloudy to mostly clear. We're going to roll into the day tomorrow, and tomorrow looks good. We'll call it partly cloudy, but I think a lot of us will actually end up being mostly sunny through the day. Temperatures upper 70s. We could kiss 80 for a brief period of time, particularly along the immediate coastline. Sunday also looks nice. It does look a little bit cooler though, with high temperatures there right around 70 degrees. So all in all, guys, obviously the weekend much nicer than much of the work week. We'll keep that rolling into next week as well.
Keith, can we trade places? I think we need to be outside getting
you want to come outside?
We'll let him back.
Yeah.
We can let him back.
All right.
All right.
All right, come on back in. Okay, coming up, how about this? A career that ended up coming full circle.
Was not planned. It just happened.
After 5 decades in education, this Maine man says goodbye in the same place it all began.
All right, this could come from the pages of a Disney movie, a real-life happy ending.
A Maine man got to say goodbye to the career he's been a part of for 5 decades in the exact place where the dreams of that career began. 61 years ago, at Longfellow Elementary School in room 205, a 6th grader named Terry Allen decided he wanted to be a teacher. 50 years later, in the same exact classroom, his career in education came to an end.
I was one of those students that didn't love going to school every day before grade 6. He turned it around for me, and I wanted to do the same thing for kids. And I hope I have through the years. How many cups in the court?
The years have seen Allen spend time as a teacher, a principal, an interim principal, and for the last 11 years after his first retirement, as a substitute.
They give me energy. I mean, it helps me feel a little bit young.
As Mr. Allen walked the halls for the final time, he came across sign after sign that the kids posted wishing him well. They're not the only ones who will miss him.
Just an amazing person. You know, he really cares about kids. He's worked really hard to make sure that every kid feels safe and comfortable at school. And we're losing a really good guy.
Speaking of losing, Mr. Allen is famous for his games of Simon Says, where legend has it, he is undefeated.
Something I started a long time ago and play with the kids, and I just say there will be no child left standing, and so far no child has been left standing. If you have any questions, let me know. I love these kids, I love the staff, and not just here, but other schools that I work in as well. And I want to just thank them all. I'm going to miss them. As I said, it's been a great career. I've loved it. I've been very lucky that way, that I love getting up and going to work every morning.
What a treat it was to spend the day with him. And Terry let me in on a little secret because I said, you know, you've never lost a game of Simon Says. He goes, no, but to be fair, I am always Simon. So it's, you know, it's tough to beat Simon. Eventually, Simon always wins.
Someone's got to be the leader.
Yeah, I don't want to steal his thunder, but
yeah, substitute does not have an easy job. I mean,
No.
you got to step in and you got to work with a different class almost every day, and that's not easy.
Well, everybody loves this guy, so
Yeah.
it was great and great to be part of his final day. So enjoy your fishing and good luck in retirement.
Well, you know what? It was a good day for recess, and I hope there's more good recess days in store weather-wise.
Yeah, because it's been a little unsettled, but it looks very nice. Oh, shameless, and I love it. I love it.
Everybody meet Luca. This is Luca.
I'm not sure how we top today. The sun came out. It's going to be warmer. We got to see Luca. I mean, you might as well quit at this point.
This is where we're
This
at.
might be your last day. You can fish with the teacher.
I peaked
You
early,
and Terry
as
Allen.
we know. Tomorrow looks about the same as today, but it's going to be a weekend, so that makes it a little better, I think.
does.
That's how the scale works. 78 officially for a high today in Portland, 77 in Wiscasset, 78 in Sanford. So a nice mild day. And again, it's not that this is that warm, it's that we've been that cool through the course of this work week. Satellite nice and clean right now. A couple of thin clouds up across northern Maine, but as I mentioned, the only showers we saw raced right across the beaches across southern parts of the state. That was it. The rest of us were dry through the entire day, and the rest of us will be sunny through the rest of today as well. Now, isolated shower tries to move through the mountains tonight, but by tomorrow morning, we're in good shape. We're mostly sunny. I called it partly cloudy, thinking a few clouds here over northern Maine are a distinct possibility, but most of us are mostly sunny with temperatures in the mid and upper 70s, and for a brief period of time touching 80 over southern and southwestern parts of Maine. Now overnight we're relatively cool, so it will still be a big swing between overnight and daytime highs. Sunday is another bright day. Sunday though a bit cooler, upper 60s to low 70s should do it for highs. So if you want the warm day, it's Saturday. The bright from start to finish day is Sunday. Both days though look good, and we roll that right into Monday. So high temperatures tomorrow, 80 in Portland, 80 in Sanford. The rest of us in the 70s and 60s across far northern Maine with a few clouds there. The pattern is positive in through Monday, Tuesday, and even the first half of Wednesday. It's not until Wednesday afternoon that we see a couple of showers roll in. Take a look at Wednesday. It's going to be quite a swing depending on where you live. Anywhere from 90 in Sanford to 55 in Caribou by Wednesday afternoon. So a typical split state forecast. Again, we ride through the weekend into Monday, Tuesday with nice weather, isolated showers and storms on Wednesday. That's about it. Our pattern much more where we should be for this time of the year. So everyone's happy, right?
We didn't time it just right.
Everyone's happy.
He was trying to swing his chair around like you're swinging the
like
forecast around.
like a dramatic ending, and we didn't.
I thought we had it down. I was going to give you a thumbs up.
We went to new levels of you not wanting to watch me as I thought was what was happening there.
As we get into the election season, I approve this message.
Okay, good.
All right, just want you to know.
I was going to run this year, don't forget, but it just didn't work out.
I do not approve that.
Conflict of interest.
Just be
No
clear
big
on
deal.
that. Okay, thank you, sir. Much more news coming up ahead on News Center Maine at 5:30.
Hey, Amanda Hill, you have a preview, right?
Hi, Lindsay and Lee. Yeah, prosecutors are calling it a hate crime. They say 1 year ago, a man yelled homophobic slurs at several female workers in Portland. Shannon Moss has the new developments in the case today. Plus, former U.S. Senate candidate Max Lynn is filing a lawsuit against the Secretary of State. He's trying to be part of Tuesday's primary election. Don Kerrigan will tell us what a judge decided today. That and much more coming up on News Center at 5:30. Now continues in a moment.
Okay, today's Brain Drops is kind of it's not necessarily sciencey, but it's statistics, and I think it's interesting that there's a new study that came out that almost half the world's population still doesn't use a bank account.
What do they use?
So, well,
you said still doesn't use, so they
still,
never have? Or
right.
they're getting away from using them?
Well, a combination actually.
Okay.
So the number technically went up to 70-something% for a while, but that was largely because a lot of poorer nations had incentivized programs. So if you open a bank account to save for the future, you got X or Y. But when they looked at activity, it was only 53% of the world had bank accounts. Let's go to our next graphic here if we could. So this is very simple, obviously, data points here. As you can see, have bank account, this is what I'm talking about, has increased since the last study in 2014. However, the ones that were actually active were low. What I think is interesting about this too, if you ever go over to Europe or South America, you will feel this in action. Where we buy a coffee from Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks with a credit card, over there for the large portion of it, you can't even buy food at a restaurant without using cash. And so this next graphic will show you places that actually went backward as far as bank accounts. And the ones that stick out to me, Argentina, when we visited there, they had a huge financial crisis in the late 90s, early 2000s. People don't trust banks or bank accounts. They want to have the money with them. In fact, there's a limit to how much money you can take out of an ATM in Argentina, and it's a small amount. So you have to go every day to get money. So it just shows you how credit digital we are, and the rest of the world is still.
So where do they keep it?
I have a
In
question.
a pillowcase or in your house?
Do you have Venmo?
Yeah, I
will
tried to pay him on Venmo
have
once.
Venmo.
It didn't work out.
Lee does not like when I ask him that question.
$1. You said at 5:30 starts now.